That was one of the main essential questions I was trying to answer. Why does somebody do this? The ability to also do something cool and fun that could, bring you back into childhood thoughts and let's go be treasure hunters.
1989, I was 10 years old. My dad was a conductor on Metro North, which ran from the suburbs to New York City and back. We lived in the woods and I spent most of my time outside. Faint calls of, "David, come home for dinner," could be heard when the sun touches the skyline. The woods was my sandbox and exploring was my job. I mean, the 80s led everybody to believe they were born for adventure. Indiana Jones, Goonies, Labyrinth, Never-Ending Story, the list goes on. There was no shortage of heroes in those days, and I combed those woods looking for loot as much and as far as I could. Even though it was the suburbs, it felt like those forests were never ending. Me and my friends would bring BB guns along for safety. Safety from what? I don't know. Possibly to safeguard whatever we found. But it didn't matter. All we ever did find was old Budweiser cans discarded from teens, stolen from their parents. But my sense of adventure was born in those woods. To this day, living in New York City, I wonder what neighborhoods I have yet to explore. My imagination as an adult rivals that of my childhood. Only as an adult, I don't have my mom calling me home when the streetlights come on. In 1987, a few years earlier, I would be taken on a field trip that would push my imagination to new heights. Our school was located close to an old town graveyard that had stones you could barely read anymore, and dated back to the town's beginning in 1795. Our task as an 8-year-old was to grave trace. Grave tracing, for those who don't know, is rather simple. Using charcoal pencils and thin tracing paper, you can get out those old stone engravings to learn about who and when these people were buried. Sometimes they even had what they did. Our town, similar to many other towns, had its own weird history. We had a giant statue of Sybil Ludington, a 16-year-old girl version of Paul Revere, who rode her horse in 1777. You know how the old myth goes. During a rainstorm, traveling 40 miles to warn of the British, it's speculated that Paul only rode 12 miles. Leave it to history to forget about women. And she was only 16 years old. Anyway, we spent the morning grave tracing, total normal outing for children. We started our way back to the school, and on our way, we had one more stop, another relic of the past. What appeared to be another gravestone, but this one was right in front of the town hall. The teacher gathered us around and told us something that would stay with me to this day. It was a time capsule, buried in 1962 for the 200-year celebration. Buried in the center of town, obviously nobody knew what was in it, but that's how the idea of legends are born. I would spend my youthful years just thinking about what was in there. But trying to think back to where my sense of exploration was born, I began thinking of that old time capsule. What happened to it? What was in it? I remember thinking as a young child, how old would I be when they dug it up? What my life would be like? What I would become? Well, it was dug up in 2012. For those of you interested, I would have been 33. Now I spend time wondering what I was like when I first learned of that time capsule. What was I like then? I can only imagine. And like legends, they just never live up to what you once thought. I reached out to those who dug it up, but got no response. But there was some poorly recorded video of that event.
Newspaper, September 6, 1962, groundbreaking for New St. James Church on Sunday.
I couldn't help but be let down. What did I imagine was in there as a kid? I couldn't tell you. I really wish I could. But whatever I thought was in there was more than a newspaper from 1964 that talked about the new Pathmark opening, or the church that would baptize me having its opening day. That's for damn sure. Well, today, I bring a little adventure to that boy, and excitement as well as that wonderful bounty of goodness. The story he deserves. This is American Treasure.
Who wouldn't want the chance to find a hidden treasure?
Did I create something that was good for the world? Yes, I inspired people. Yes, I got them off their couches, but they also put themselves in bad situations. They got themselves killed.
It's a chance at a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
Are you ready for the fame?
I spent once or twice a week there for like 5 years.
One property owner told me that so many people had dug on their property that they finally developed a little contract that entitled them to a percentage of whatever was found.
It's about an adventure. Sign me up.
I don't think he ever expected it to get as big as it did, to become such a phenomenon.
Let me tell you this. Treasure hunts are the biggest scams there are.
Treasure hunt.
Treasure hunt.
Hey, you want to go on a treasure hunt?
Very strange thing to be a part of.
That was the beginning of the grandest adventure I ever had.
Episode 1, Fenn and the Start of It All. Around the same time they were digging up that time capsule, a man named Forrest Fenn was setting out on his own adventure.
When 82-year-old Forrest Fenn found out that he was dying of cancer about 3 years ago, he decided to hide a portion of his vast fortune somewhere in New Mexico and leave clues so that other people could search for it. A big-time treasure hunt.
Forrest was a pilot in the Air Force, went on to obtain a rank of major. He was a Vietnam War vet and became an art dealer. In 1988, he was diagnosed with cancer and didn't expect many days ahead of him, so he decided to hide a treasure somewhere in the western United States. He thought it was a good idea to place the treasure at his final resting place. Basically die while holding his wealth. Weird, right? Well, he recovered.
Now he is cancer-free, but he's sticking with his promise to keep that treasure hidden.
Just cut out the whole dying part. Then he wrote a book called The Thrill of the Chase, a memoir, which in essence is a bit of a nod to himself, his stories in his life, and at the end he wrote a poem. This poem was alleged to be clues as to where his chest would be. If you followed all these clues to the T, it would lead you to the riches, or so he said.
As I have gone alone in there, and with my treasures bold, I can keep my secret where, and hint of riches new and old. Begin it where warm waters halt, and take it in the canyon down. Not far, but too far to walk. Put in below the home of Brown. From there it's no place for the meek. The end is ever drawing nigh. There'll be no paddle up your creek, just heavy loads and water high. If you've been wise and found the blaze, look quickly down your quest to cease. But tarry scant with marvel gaze, just take the chest and go in peace.
The poem from Forrest Fenn himself. So it began, a true treasure hunt. More than just a time capsule with historical elements, but rather real-deal treasure chests with riches and promises of outdoor adventure. Something that would truly change your life. But then it started to grow. There's no formula for making something like this strike a chord in people.
You know, he didn't expect to have 10 Today Show appearances.
That's Daniel Barbarisi, author of Chasing the Thrill, Obsession, Death, and Glory in America's Most Extraordinary Treasure Hunt.
Like everybody else, I saw it on the Today Show.
And that's Sasha Dent, an avid treasure hunter.
That was my first exposure to Forrest Fenn's treasure hunt.
But there's definitely a few things that helped it along the way.
It really was the Today Show appearance. It really was. It was that in February of 2013, because that just put it on a whole different level. And when you have a level of media like that that's going to get explained, then there's a ton of follow-up media, especially after people start doing it. So, you know, when the thing goes from a couple thousand to tens of thousands, which I think is fair to say at that time, you know, that creates its own phenomenon.
Getting millions of people to watch the Today Show before they schlep off to work thinking about treasures is not a bad way to start.
You know, I think the two inflection points are very much the Today Show appearance,
As the old saying goes,
and the June of 2017 deaths.
if it bleeds, it leads. And that really set the hunt on fire.
Then it changes and becomes an international story, really. Not just that a treasure hunt exists, but that should this treasure hunt exist, that this treasure hunt is controversial.
As the search for a Forrest Fenn treasure ends in death in Yellowstone National Park.
January 2016.
Randy Bilyeu from Broomfield told a friend he planned to travel on the Rio Grande River nearly 2 weeks ago. His dog and inflatable raft were later found along the river about 9 miles downstream from his car.
In June of 2017,
Yellowstone Park officials started a search for 53-year-old Jeff Murphy June 8th. Murphy's body was found June 9th. He was looking for the Forrest Fenn treasure.
Family and friends say goodbye to a Grand Junction pastor who died while searching for buried treasure in New Mexico.
The coroner just identified Eric Ashby's body yesterday.
A snowmobile rider died while searching for Forrest Fenn's treasure in Utah. According to the Denver Post, 2 riders went looking for the treasure on March 17th and got stranded somewhere in the Dinosaur National Monument along the Utah-Colorado border. Authorities say all they had with them was candy bars, a couple of water bottles, and a copy of Fenn's book.
By my count, that's 5 souls. which doesn't include all the search and rescue missions that went on in the area for all the searchers for said treasure, costing the state a tremendous amount of money.
He thought this thing was going to be small.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't ever think people were going to die. He didn't think that people, it's certainly going to be that kind of crazy. I think he said this to me and others many times, but, he anticipated a little bit of crazy, but not this kind of crazy, not the kind of threatening, dangerous stuff that it became.
Even authorities were forced to get involved.
New Mexico's top cop has asked for Fenn to call the treasure hunt off.
You had talked about giving more clues. And again, I call for you to pull it.
I'm not going to give a clue to help people find the treasure. I'm going to give a clue to try to keep them out of trouble.
I didn't anticipate that people would die searching for my treasure, but in the back of my mind, it had to be logical that could happen. The grizzly bears alone or something to think about.
It weighs on you.
A little bit. I don't feel responsible.
I don't feel responsible. Legends are a funny thing. This one grew more and more with each death. It led to 3 more Today Show appearances by Fenn, as well as more clues about where it was hidden, and more people out in the countryside searching.
Okay, we've talked you into somehow giving us another clue this morning.
Well, I'm not going to put an X on the map for you.
No?
No.
All right, well, how about the clue?
Okay, the clue is the treasure is higher than 5,000 feet above sea level.
The treasure is higher
This
than
led to Fenn refining his map, as well as setting out more rules. Not sure if that helped or not, but it certainly grew the popularity of both Fenn and the treasure. And when there's popularity, there always follows the fanatics.
More than one have gotten in trouble with the law for sure. But yes, you're right. You think about particularly Paco Chavez, who tried to kill Fenn's granddaughter effectively, thinking she is the key to the treasure and that kind of stuff. And, he dealt with a lot more of that than I think people realize. There were, this thing was a magnet for people who, unfortunately may have had some problems in their mind, and saw this as, some sort of a beacon in some ways.
There were these crazy people breaking into their property. There was so much tension in their family because of this treasure hunt and his commitment to not ending it. And his wife is sick, and coronavirus, it was so tense that he was not allowed to leave the house without an escort.
But Fenn loved the limelight. The mystery grew and the hunt went on for years. All the people I talked to have the same mindset. Beat the puzzle, beat the puzzler, outsmart Fenn.
It wasn't about solving the puzzle just to get the loot, but it was about proving that you were the one who could do it, and that was going to prove a lot of other things about you too. There were also people who wanted to beat Fenn in some ways, to show him that they could solve the puzzle.
It was absolutely a personal quest to outsmart Forrest.
I can't figure out what it is about a treasure hunt that stirs something inside of them. Perhaps I should go on a treasure hunt. Well, 10 years have passed, many lives were changed. Isn't that treasure enough for the searchers?
The unfindable has been found.
The treasure, buried sometime in 2010, was finally found. On June 6, 2020, Fenn posted on the Searchers blog, Thrill of the Chase, that the treasure had been found.
Somewhere deep in the mountains north of Santa Fe, an 11th century treasure box filled with millions worth of gold, emeralds, and antiquities has finally been found.
I picked up the phone and called Forrest at his house. Did you just send me an email? So you're telling me the treasure chest has been found, the treasure hunt is over. And then he says, well, I hope you got something out of it. And I said, Forrest, I got my husband out of it. And he said, well, that's good, isn't it? I said, yeah, Forrest, that's real good. The next day, it really sunk in and I cried. Imagine being a professional runner and getting into a car accident and losing the loss of your legs. You can't ever run again.
The hunter emailed Fenn with a picture of the treasure.
He learned the search was over when the man emailed him a picture of the treasure and in a post describing the secret location under a canopy of stars in the lush forested vegetation of the Rocky Mountains.
Well, it's done. The treasure's found. Everyone had fun. Let's move on, guys, right?
That's absolutely a conspiracy. It was not found. He told Jack where it was to end it. Somebody's going to buy it from Jack and start a new treasure hunt using all the same stuff. It wasn't real. Unfortunately, no one else is ready to move on.
Yeah.
And they're still not 2 years later.
I talked earlier about beating the game, winning the puzzle, being smarter than Fenn. One thing everyone told me was that they knew where it was.
Everybody takes one look at it and thinks, oh, I know where this is. I got it figured out. I'm going to be rich. That's the first thing you do. And then, the sobering reality of that first treasure hunt is like, oh yeah, this is not anywhere near as easy as I thought it was going to be. And I might not actually get rich from this.
They just haven't found the exact spot yet. That quote-unquote knowing where it was that they had the area down. They figured it out. But in the end, the mysterious hunter, Jack Stoof, withheld the location, driving conspiracies wild for years. I reached out to Jack, but he's a very private person. Soon Jack will be auctioning the treasure off, and I'm told he did reveal the location. Maybe one day we'll hear his side of the story. But I really believe some hunters of Forrest Fenn's treasure will never be happy. Some put in years of hunting and pursuing and sacrificed so much in search of that box.
I spent 5-6 years looking for this thing.
Should they feel entitled to it? Should they feel the time they put in was worth anything? Nothing? I don't have the answers to that. Neither did Fenn. Jack certainly has no obligation to anyone. He's just a guy who found a treasure. Well, life moves on, for better or worse. So where am I going with this? Why should we care about something an old man did some 10 years ago, let alone put so much time into a treasure that's been found? Well, you may have learned something you didn't know, or you may have known everything I said. And in fact, you might even be yelling about something I got wrong. But you tuned in because you saw Forrest Fenn in the description, or treasure, or whatever drove you here, and you're saying, so what now? Well, it's not every day something falls into your lap and you have no option but to follow through with it to the end, no matter what the outcome. Some of you did that exact same thing while searching for this treasure, or any other American treasure, or beyond that, sucked days or months or even years from your life. This may do the same thing to me, or even you if we're lucky to have that time to spare in our own busy lives. But today, I need to make known a voice you may have never heard before, a voice you may learn to love or hate, or just come to know as an eccentric man with nothing to do but drive all of us crazy. And today, I have the extreme pleasure to introduce to you the future of American treasures.
Hi, I'm Jon Collins-Black, and I'm hiding a treasure.
Next time on American Treasure.
The plan right now is to hide 5 treasures spread out across the United States.
Possibly one that will exceed Fenn's, but only time will tell. This is American Treasure.